We are calling this the Early Learner Rapid City under the umbrella of Early Learners South Dakota. And it really started when there was this upswell of conversation surrounding early learning in our community. And one of our jobs, or my job at the foundation, is to get a handle and an understanding on what organizations are doing in our community, what is important to them. And so I reached out to those kind of the major players that were talking about early learners, and that became the mayor's task force on this, coming from the National League of Cities, United Ways, Black Hills Reads Initiative, South Dakota Association for the Education of Young Children, and then of course ourselves. And so through conversations, we decided, there are enough people that really feel this is very important, that we need to move forward. But we need to do it in a way that is community-driven, grassroots efforts to make sure that we incorporate all of the voices when it comes to early learners. You typically think of early learning as that preschool classroom. And we know more and more that is not the only way that young children learn. They learn in their homes, they learn from their grandparents, they learn in many different environments, and a lot of times that is the parent's choice, and we need to respect that. But that also needs to, we also need to provide resources and the opportunities for them to do that. And so through this effort, we understand it's going to be long-term. I've also often coined these long-term community-wide efforts as we need to go slow to move fast, that we have to be very deliberate and inclusive.
Okay. So when we talk about the initiative, I know part of the goal is to also change the narrative in the way, and you shared with me how sometimes that might even be the vocabulary that's used. When we talk about early learning, sometimes people often think of preschool, which that could mean different things for different people. Talk to me about some of the changes that you're hoping to push in terms of the vocabulary and the narrative for this.
Right, and I kind of alluded to that it's not just that traditional preschool classroom. And so early childhood education is often associated directly to that classroom. And by using the language early learner, it really encompasses all those environments. And so that is really one of the first pieces that we need to do, is to help anyone who's interested in early learning in different environments know that we're all on the same page, that we want to make sure these resources are available for not only the classroom setting, but parents that choose to stay at home and foster families, just so that it's all inclusive.
So I know we're talking about a statewide issue. You've referenced a lot of the resources that are available, in communities already, and how we tap into those resources. You also mentioned it being part of what's going on in Rapid City. Do we see other communities taking part, perhaps Sioux Falls, specifically for those in that area, maybe Spearfish, some of our other communities across the state?
Yes, this is definitely a statewide issue. And as I mentioned earlier, Early Learning Rapid City is under the umbrella of Early Learners South Dakota. And we do envision this as becoming a community-driven effort, grassroots effort, that with the intention that we will roll in more and more communities. And so it'll be more of the community level versus putting the responsibility on, let's say, state legislators. And so making the awareness start within the communities.
So when you look to the future of early learning in South Dakota as a whole, what is the foundation hoping that will look like?
I see it happening in 3 different waves over a long period of time. But number one, if we can change that narrative, as we were talking about earlier, that it's an early learner in all environments, and then have that community-wide awareness on what is that return on investment when we do that with children at a young age. And then the third piece is having that the different sectors of the community actually invest in early learning. And I don't mean investing in merely financial terms, but it's their times, their talents, their other resources that they can have to support early learners.
Is there anything that we missed in terms of the foundation's involvement with early learning in general, or the initiatives that we've not touched on?
Just to hang in there, be patient, and to reach out and learn. If you're interested in helping support early learning, reach out, and we will see how that looks for a business, an organization, an individual to help support this effort.
All right, very good. Jessica Gromer, Program Officer with the John T. Vucuervich Foundation. Thank you for taking the time to visit with us and share some of this information.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.